I don't play that fact. Once you let me go, no, you never come back. I'ma be the best that you never had. I'ma kick back when you fake like that. Head out at the game, I don't play that fact. Once you let me go, no, you never come back. I'ma be the best that you never had. I'ma kick, 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 I'ma be the best that you never had. Rumpa pa pa, rumpa pa pa, see I got it. Rumpa pa pa, rumpa pa pa, do you want it? I don't flex, I'm success. Effortless, I'm like a rumpa pa pa, rumpa pa pa, see I got it. I don't flex, I'm success. I don't flex, I'm success. I don't flex.
What's good, Raptors fans? Well, we did not get what we wanted. We wanted a Chicago win. We did not get it. We wanted an OKC win. We did not get it. Some of you guys wanted a Raptors loss. You got that. Well, we are officially 13th. And the pathway to getting Victor Wembanyama is pretty much Dunzo, Washington. It's over. So, what do the Raptors have in the 13th overall pick? Look, the Raptors under Masai Ujiri have been very good at drafting overall. I mean, you can definitely look at some of the misses. You can look at, somebody like Malachi Flynn, and you can call that a miss. But in the grander context of 27, 28 overall picks, that's not a miss at all. The Raptors have done very well in the draft under Masai Ujiri. But what's most interesting to me is whenever there is a generational talent somewhere in the draft range of where the Raptors are looking to draft, it almost seems like the Raptors are always trying to get that player. I'll give you an example. So we just saw the Defensive Player of the Year results sort of come in, and we had the 3 finalists announced. Now, of course, we are all very happy with Scotty Barnes. Well, some of us are happy with Scotty Barnes. Some of us, of course, are asking Scotty to get in the gym. We will not get into that. We got into that in the last live. But there were rumors around the 2021 draft that the Raptors were looking to trade up 1 pick. And who were they looking at? Evan Mobley. There were rumors in 2018 that the Raptors were looking to trade anybody on the roster, which included Kyle Lowry, which included DeMar DeRozan. And this is before they made the trade for Kawhi Leonard in order to trade up in the draft to get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And then, of course, in 2013, there were rumors, of course, confirmed rumors, that the Raptors did everything in their power, apparently not enough, to get into a top 13, 14 pick to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. They know what they're doing with the draft. So I thought it would be a very helpful thing for us as Raptor fans who are probably panicking about this fall off from 11th to 13th, potentially. I mean, it's not really a fall off. That's exactly where we finished. 13th is where we finished. But perhaps the grander context, we are probably panicking about the potential fall off of where we were prior to the trade deadline, which is 6th to 13th. So I thought we'd do an analytical deep dive into what the 13th pick could net the Toronto Raptors. Some baseline understanding first. We're going to look at some of the picks, some of the players picked in the 13th draft. Now, all drafts are not equal, and of course, the stronger the draft, I mean, drafts are not equal in any way. First of all, some drafts are top heavy, very top heavy. Some drafts are fairly steady. Like there's a lot of parity between picks 6 all the way through 22, and you can get something really good. Consider last year, Jalen Williams goes 12th, right? Walker Kessler goes in, I think he went 22nd, 23rd. AJ Griffin, who's great, went in the teens. There was a lot of picks. And typically, what I find is that with every single draft, right, the value skews every time you go down a tier, right? So you might find one star between 1 and 4. You might find another star between 5 and 13. And then there might be like one more superstar, star type player, not superstar, but star type player between picks 14 all the way through like pick 60, right? And sometimes that player is a Gilbert Arenas right at the top of the second round, or Nikola Jokic buried somewhere in the 40s. Sometimes it's a Manu Ginobili all the way at pick 56. And sometimes it's a player literally picked at 15th, like Kawhi Leonard or Giannis Antetokounmpo. But I trust the Raptors to do a great evaluation job, and picking 13th has a lot of advantages. Specifically, when you pick at the top of the draft, it's very hard to work out players who are outside your range. They don't want to work out for you. It's doubly complicated to work out players when you're at the top of the draft, when you're a Canadian team, because a lot of players, especially American players, don't actually have passports, and they don't typically get passports until after they become NBA prospects. Sometimes they have visa issues. The Raptors faced this issue with Pascal Siakam. They also faced this issue with Christian Koloko last year. With Pascal, they were able to work him out in Buffalo. With Christian Koloko, they actually did not work him out at all prior to drafting him last year. So when I say that it is a really interesting place to be, 13th, that means that there's a whole range of prospects that you could look at. There are players who are mocked right now at 25th that may be in play at 13th. There are players who are maybe at 6th or 7th, where their agents may want to look at working out for teams in the range of 10 to 13, just as insurance. Being at the end of the lottery is a really interesting place to be, because it is a melding of the middle of the first round and what people consider high lottery talents. Typically, players in this range tend to be gems, like diamonds in the rough. They're not obvious, right? You're not going to get a Victor Wembanyama type, or Anthony Davis type. There's nothing screaming, this is obvious. But GMs who know what they're doing in this part of the draft tend to unearth some serious gems. So let's take a look at, The Ringer did this is going to meld into a couple of articles, but I think it's interesting to look at. So this is the expected 4-year WAR. So it's a wins against replacement for the first overall pick all the way to the 14th, right? So you start to see that there's quite a bit of parity. Like the drop off tends to be, it's a fall off for almost every single pick. There's a fall off, and that makes complete logical sense. And of course there are outliers in every situation, but clearly, as expected, the first overall pick is going to be on average the best. Now, how often would you say the first overall pick is actually the best player? Almost never. But when they are the best player, like a Zion, for instance, or a Shaquille O'Neal, they skew this average up so much. But so often, the best player in the draft is going to be a little bit further down. Now, this is worth noting, and this is going to be a little bit hard to see, and I apologize for that. But hopefully some of you will have a way to expand this out and just look at it. So this is the draft track record since 2004 up till 2021 when the article was written. And you see draft value versus expectation based on that value chart right there. So the best drafting team is going to be the team that exceeds the value of the pick that they had. So for instance, if you pick an Anthony Davis at 1, he is better than an average number 1 overall pick, and therefore, obviously, you're going to get some plus points on that. So why are the Pelicans so good at drafting? Are they so good at drafting? Well, kind of, sort of, not really. They're so good at drafting because the 3 players that they picked at the top of the draft were all incredible. And those 3 players were Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson, and Chris Paul. The Jazz, of course, analytics love Rudy Gobert, and picking him at 27th is going to be a big, big kill for you. Jimmy Butler, also an analytics darling, and he's had a pretty long career. And the Raptors, of course, as this moves on, as Pascal Siakam continues to evolve, they're going to continue to get plus points for this. But largely what is dropping the Raptors' value so low is in 2004, they picked Rafael Rougeau at 8, and that was a complete flop. And in 2005, they picked Charlie Villanueva, and relative to his draft position, which was 7th, I believe, he was a flop on his career. And Andrea Bargnani, of course, in 2006 was also a massive flop. Relative to a first overall pick, I think Andrea performed closer to what would be considered an 11th overall pick. So you get a lot of negative points there. You can see the Bucks right above us. They obviously get a lot of plus points for Giannis Antetokounmpo performing so well, but they lose a lot of points for Jabari Parker, who was picked 2nd overall. Now, obviously, is it fair to compare it this way, right? Like an Evan Turner. Was Evan Turner really in a draft where there was a classical 2nd overall pick? A debate for perhaps another day, but drafts are not made equal. And I definitely think that in the 2023 draft, a draft which is widely considered one of the better drafts in recent memory, 13th overall is actually probably, on this value chart, it's probably closer to a 7th or 8th overall pick in a normal draft. Now, median is going to be very depressing for you if you start thinking about Corey Brewer and Stanley Johnson. But when you start thinking about who is making this draft pick and which organization is making this draft pick, then you start to get a little more bullish. Now, where are we here? This is a way of looking at draft. This was an article that I referenced a couple of videos back, and you can see that this exact same fall off happens here. This is a conjunction of win shares and all-star berths, and obviously you can see that the value of a first overall pick is going to be given a value of 100 here. So if everything is relative to the first overall pick, then you can start to see that the value fall off from first overall to second overall is enormous. And that's generally because first overall picks tend to make a bunch of all-star teams, and they tend to be superstars. When they hit, they're superstars, right? Like Shaq, Chris Webber. How many all-star teams are there just between those two guys? I mean, you can look at Tim Duncan, David Robinson. There's so many superstars at that first overall pick, right? And second overall pick has, produced a ton of flops. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Marvin Williams. There's so many. But then you start to look between pick 8, 9, 10. Obviously, there's quite a bit of okay. You could reasonably say 9 to 7. It's really close, right? In terms of value. But then you start to look at 11 to 14. That's a pretty even range, right? Historically speaking, that's a pretty dead even range. Now, what kind of players could you possibly expect to get in this part of the draft? Wait a second. I am missing a graphic. Hang on. I have to pull this up, guys. I'm sorry. I have to pull it up from StatMuse. I had it, then I lost it. Okay. So this is the history of the 13th overall pick. We're just going to look at players who were picked 13th overall over the last 20 years. And I think you'll see a trend towards the positive for this particular draft slot. And I think this has to do with the expansion of the game overall. I don't need to tell you, like, players are just getting more talented across the world, right? So this is just this is a snapshot. And of course, we'll look at some of the best players picked in this spot as well. So this is a little snapshot of who some of the more recent 13th overall picks have been. So obviously some names are going to jump out at you. Tyler Herro, who just signed a max contract with the Miami Heat. Chris Duarte was absolutely an abysmal pick. He was also an older player and quite frankly not, the greatest player to be picked in that range. But when you consider the players who were actually available in 2021, I think the Raptors would have picked Trey Murphy III at that 13th overall pick if the Raptors had the pick. And he's been great. So, I mean, like, if I had to tell you, like, where their big board was on that year, like, I think they would have picked him. Jalen Duren feels like a guy that the Raptors would have looked at as well, and he's looked really good for the Pistons. I don't know why they're playing James Wiseman over him. Kira Lewis, I mean, the jury is still out, but obviously Jerome Robinson has not worked out. Donovan Mitchell is a superstar. Devin Booker is a superstar. Zach LaVine is an all-star and a supermax player at this point. And then, like for 10 years straight, almost, you get like nothing, right? It's just a whole bunch of role players, flame outs, all guys who had starting opportunities. Ironically, a lot of ex-Raptors there. Marcus Banks, former ex-Raptor. Sebastian Telfair, former ex-Raptor. Julian Wright, former ex-Raptor. Tyler Hansbrough, Ed Davis, all former Raptors. Did Kendall Marshall play for us? I feel like he almost did. Yeah. So, I mean, and also kind of astonishing how often the Phoenix Suns have had the 13th overall pick. But when you start going deeper into the history of the 13th overall pick, there are actually some all-time greats. And it is very interesting that these players were picked in all-time drafts. So the 1996 draft, of course, produced Kobe Bryant at the 13th overall pick. And it was just a really, really good draft. I mean, there's so many good players picked in 1996, even after the 13th overall pick. But it was just something to, I don't know, be very, very hopeful about. Also, in the 1985 draft, which was also a really strong draft, I can read it out here, the players who were picked. So it was, hang on. Patrick Ewing, number 1. Wayman Tisdale, number 2. Benoit Benjamin, number 3. Xavier Daniel, number 4. John Konchak, number 5. Joe Klein, number 6. I remember Joe Klein. Chris Mullin, Detlef Schrempf. Charles Oakley picked number 9th. Ed Pickney, remember him too, number 10. Keith Lee, 11th. Kenny Green, 12th. Karl Malone, 13th. There were some value picks picked after as well. Joe Dumars was picked 18th in that draft. Serviceable center Bill Wennington, a Canadian guy, picked 16th. There was AC Green, Terry Porter picked 23rd and 24th in that same draft. Just a little bit of NBA trivia, if you will. I'm a bit of an NBA nerd. And in the second round, right at the top, the legend, of course, Manute Bol, picked at 31st. So, I mean, it was an interesting draft. I mean, it was not an all-time draft. It was nothing compared to the draft that preceded it, the 1984 draft, which was the Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon, I believe Charles Barkley draft. But yeah, so it's interesting how often great players have been picked. Also, fun trivia fact, Raptor legend Keon Clark was the 13th pick in the 1998 NBA draft. So, I'm not saying the Raptors are going to get a superstar at 13, of course. I am, however, saying that if there's a team and a front office that can find a star player, I don't know about a superstar player, but an all-star, a really good player a serviceable guy, someone who will definitely be a starter for you at the 13th overall pick, it would be the team that has found an All-NBA player at 27, a potential DPOY candidate at 23, and Rookie of the Year at 4. Trust your front office. This is a team that does its homework well. They may not have done the greatest job this year with roster construction. They may not have done the greatest job with chemistry, management. They certainly didn't do this Raptor fan base any favors by mortgaging the 2024 pick and a second rounder this year and a second rounder in 2025 for Jakob Poeltl. But I believe in this team's draft record. I believe in this team's lottery draft record, and I definitely believe in Masai Ujiri as a talent evaluator. I think we're going to get someone good here. The last video got demonetized because I used an Auburn college clip, unfortunately. But nevertheless, and yeah, I want to apologize for the last live. I was not myself. I had received a message prior to doing the live that just kind of took a while to process. But yeah, all right, let's take a look at some comments. And if there's no call-ins and there's nobody, by the way, what'd you guys think of that intro? It took a while. I'll be honest, like it took a while to put that together, and there's so many gems in there, and there's so many players that I obviously support, and there's a bit of inclusion of women's basketball, including Eve, who is Victor Wembanyama's sister, and of course Flage, who is my new favorite female player in the world, and I just thought it was time for a fresh intro. So yeah. Can we still move up? Yes, we can still move up. It is, of course, unprecedented for a team with such limited odds to move up. But if you want to look at Tankathon, hang on one second. The Tankathon odds for us moving up from 13th, we have a 4.8% chance at a top 4 pick, and our chances at a first overall pick just went down to 1%. So literally our chances at Victor Wembanyama are now 1 in 100. I should add that in years past, the draft odds have been a lot less flat. So it is worth noting that our odds of moving from 13 to 1 are better than most teams in NBA history's odds of moving from 13 to 1. I would still say 1 in 100 is quite a bit of a prayer, but if you believe in that sort of thing, definitely rub your lucky rabbit foot on draft lottery night. I think you mean Case and Wallace. Don't be surprised. There are players with some incredible measurements that may move up, and honestly, I've listened to a lot of Case interviews. He could move down. Who not to draft at 13th? I don't know, Keontae George, but with my luck, we'll probably draft Keontae George. I'm not a fan. Let's see here. Let's just take a look at NBA mock draft 2023, and we'll just look at where people have who. So in terms of the mock draft, currently the 13th overall pick is Gregory Jackson. That's interesting. So there's another player that I would prefer not to draft. Some people have been talking about Jet Howard. We'll definitely get into him at some point. He's a really good shooter, but I'm just not a fan of players who don't play defense. I don't know how else to tell you this. I just don't like players who don't play defense. So I'm not seeing it. I think Rayon Rupert is a guy who can definitely move up. He's the type of player we like. I like Jalen Hood Schifino. I like his size. I like his wingspan. and just his overall feel for the game is very interesting. If I recall correctly, he's also a Montverde prospect. I think someone mentioned that. Um, Grady Dick could also be a very interesting player. Um, yeah. In terms of players who could fall, um, what are people's thoughts on Cam Whitmore? I don't know. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, why do people keep mentioning Bryce Sansabaugh? Like, I would be so shocked out of my mind if we drafted him. I'll be honest. Like, yeah, I've been hearing this a lot too. Um, Thoughts on Rayon Rupert? So I talked about Rayon Rupert on the last live. I really like him. I've liked him for a while. I think earlier in the year so this is very interesting. So um, I did my homework earlier in the draft. So I started doing my homework around December. I started watching game tape, actual game tape, like full games, not clips and highlights. But I started watching like full game tape. And three of the prospects that I really liked earlier were Rayon Rupert, and I brought him up in a live, if you recall, Anthony Black, and Cason Wallace. And ironically, at the time that I brought this up, Rayon Rupert was 29th mocked. Cason was 17th, and I think Anthony Black was like 15th. And now they're all being mocked at the end of the lottery. So, I mean, it's good that they've moved up, but clearly, like the film that I was watching, um, has circulated around. Um, you like Nick Smith? What do you like about Nick Smith? That's so funny. Sorry. I like Nick Smith. I like Nick Smith. I hate Smith. Oh man. You got it. Uh, Absolutely. Absolutely could. Yeah. Is it really? Draft net, as in like NBA draft.net? That's hilarious. I it's crazy. Like I actually remember so it was in high school once, right? And we had like a computer class, and they tried to teach us how to make a website. And my very first mock website that I made, and I've made some websites since then, but my very first mock website was a website for the 2003 NBA draft. And yeah, I remember like pulling pictures of Chris Bosh and Carmelo Anthony and putting them on there. It was cool. Um, so right now, NBADraft.net, not that I take them very seriously right now, they have um, they have Walker going 13th, Cam Whitmore going 12th, Nick Smith going 11th, GG Jackson going 10th. And they have Rupert all the way to 9th. Holy shoot. NBA comparison, OG Anunoby. Damn. I don't see it, man. He's a little bit more fluid than OG Anunoby, man. He's got like, but like defensively, I get it. Um, yeah, he's got Raptor written all over him, man. Yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. I hope this live was informative. If not, slightly, what do you call it? Uplifting? I don't know. Maybe some people are confused right now. Also, I gotta love it, man. Like a 1:35 in the morning, get 107 people tuning in to an impromptu live that we scheduled like 20 minutes ago. That's dope. So thank you so much. Um, I got to be honest with you, if somebody gets the first overall pick, you couldn't give up everything on your roster to get that pick. That pick is worth more than your entire roster. I'm pretty sure that pick is worth. I I gotta be honest. I don't think you could trade Scotty Barnes for the first overall pick. And obviously very big Scotty fan, but I don't think you could. Um, the upside on it is just it's too huge. The marketing potential is just too enormous. Um, exactly. Um, I think the value on Victor Wembanyama on draft night, prior to draft night, the first overall pick, like the minute it is announced, whoever's getting it, I think it will be equivalent to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Like roughly, it'll be around that value right away. Um, Also worth mentioning, there have been some incredible players picked at number 12 recently. So just to point out, like, I mean, not only have Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell gone 13th, but Jalen Williams, like J-Dub, the guy that you just watched lose for OKC, and Tyrese Halliburton were picked number 12 in like the last 4 years. So yeah, 12, 13 is a really good range to find players. Now, in the case of both of those players, they were not freshmen, right? So, typically like players get overlooked for a billion reasons. One thing I like about the Raptors, and I know that some people were mentioning like they don't trust Masai or whatever, and I do. And one of the reasons I do is because he's very good at reading people. Like he's really good at, well, I think he's good at reading people. I think he's good at understanding like what qualities in a human being translate to success in an NBA locker room. Why do you want the Spurs to get Victor? He's not Tim Duncan. Yeah, so there's of course rumors out there that the Portland Trailblazers will look to trade their pick. Um, if they end up in the top three, top four, I would look to move Pascal Siakam to get that pick for sure. It could be worth it for the Raptors, of course. I mean, you have to take back salary. I don't know if that would be Jeremy Grant. I don't know if that'll be something else, but um, yeah, the report is that they will not trade the first overall pick, but they'll trade any other pick after that. Portland has a disastrous history at the top of the draft, from Sam Bowie to Greg Oden to, yeah. I don't think LaMarcus Aldridge was a disaster. He was great, uh, given the draft class that he was in. But even Brandon Roy, I mean, they've had some really, really bad luck with injuries. Um, I thought 1 to 11 is very good, but then there's a drop off. So as I referenced earlier, the drop off here. So if you look, the drop off from 1, so the ranges are 1, and then it goes 2, 3, then it goes 4, 5, and then it goes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 is a bit of a drop off. 13, 14 is a bit of a drop off. Um, that I think that was for all-star selections. Yes, that is for all-star selections. But when you look at it from this perspective, actually that's not the case. So 12, 13 seem to be 12, 13, 14 seem to be pretty close to 10 and 11. I mean, 10 to 11, there's a 1 drop off, and then there's another 1.3 drop off, but 12, 13, 14 is pretty bunched together, man. Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to win with Damian Lillard. Like, I like Dame a lot, but he's due like $60 million at some point in his mid 30s. That's a hell of a player to win with. And then the problem is, like, for teams like Atlanta, um, yeah, he's great. I doubt he falls, but I have a feeling that he could. Like, 13 is where he was mocked many times. Like, there are a lot of mock drafts that have him 13, 14. you never know around draft time. Like some lunatic team falls in love with like some crazy, international prospect. They go off the board at 8, 9. Someone falls. You know, it happens almost every single year. I mean, look at Michael Porter Jr. I mean, he fell down all the way to 14s, right? Which sign and trade? So, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that you can sign and trade and combine a salary. Um, yeah. Also, wow, Ben Simmons right now, really? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think a first round pick is worth that much, man. Taking on that salary, it's an albatross contract right now. I mean, like, I like Ben Simmons more than most people do, but his track record right now is abysmal. Um, okay. Anyways, have a great night, y'all, and make sure to hit like, subscribe if you haven't already. And I just want to give a very quick shout out to this community. You guys, like, I've been shouting out this channel since, I mean, this is so funny to me, right? Like, I'm saying, you're looking at this screen right now and you're saying Goat has like, 106 subscribers. He's all the way up to 600 now. The Untold Story of Scotty Barnes had 8.7 thousand subscribers, sorry, views. And the first time I remember shouting it out, and I was like, hey, there's this awesome YouTuber with like 400 or 500 views on this awesome Scotty documentary. He has like one subscriber, which I think was me. Um, and now he's like up to 600 subscribers. That video that I just referenced is up to like 60,000 views. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's amazing. So, to this community that's showering that channel with love, good for you guys, man. Support the content. It's good content. So if you haven't hit subscribe over there, hit subscribe over there for sure. He is one of you. He is a community member here. Also, big shout out to Queensway Automotive Group. If you're looking for a car, check the link in the description below. Um, yeah, I gotta plug it. I think we are on the cusp of signing a really huge sponsor in, I think, next week. It's an NBA sponsor. It's actually like an NBA affiliate partner. Pensari Basketball is going big time. I'm just kidding. We're not going big time. We're going to stay small time. Pensari Basketball is going big time. And then life is like, humble your ass. 2012 MacBook. Boom. Crash. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in at this ungodly hour. And I wish you guys some great sleep. Cheers. And yes, hit subscribe if you haven't hit subscribe. We're slowly working our asses back to 5,000 subscribers. Somewhat weird and somewhat strange to have celebrated 5,000 subscribers what feels like a month ago. And then it was like an entire month where we just kept losing subscribers every single day. I would look at the subscriber count go down, 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 and down. And I was just like, man, I don't typically care about losing subscribers. But you make such a big deal about getting to 5,000 subscribers and then you lose like 50. It just kind of looks weird. I don't know what to say, but yeah. Sorry, there's one more comment here. Stepien rule. Ready to shoot hoops? You mean like for the summer? Honestly, man, like I hurt my wrist like last summer, and yeah, it's my shooting wrist. So I don't know. It still kind of hurts. Maybe I should have like gotten physio for it or something. I don't know. Um, this is correct. You cannot trade in consecutive years. And if you are the Raptors and your pick protection is as the way it is, you can actually trade your pick for many years going forward. So because of that 2024 pick that we traded away. So yeah. Um, One final shout out to the 90 of you who have remained here. Hold on. I'm going to give you a task and I'm going to ask you to please do it because I absolutely despise this human being and he needs to be called out, man. He's been called out enough, but I just, please do it. Like, just do it. Just do me a favor, okay? If you have a Twitter following, sorry, if you have like a Twitter account, especially if you have a Twitter following, man, because we barely have a Twitter following. All right, but hang on. Here we go. I'm going to put this here. Where is this? How do I share this? Ah, got it. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the... Mark Anderson, everything isn't a conspiracy. The 2024 draft is pathetically weak. Okay, so I'm going to put this comment right here. Okay, I can't pin it. But that comment right there, that status, that's the Doug Smith tweet. Okay, this bullshit needs to get called out, guys. I talked about it in the previous live, but this shit it cannot stand. Okay, so what I would like you to do, if you can please, let Doug Smith know on Twitter, shout out the Toronto Star if you would like, and let this dude know that this is not okay. Because to those of you who look at this article and think, he's right, Scotty should work hard. Please understand, as a person who has written, I want to say 200 sports articles, I can tell you what a hit piece looks like. It happens. Okay. There were people in the Chicago area in 1988 who didn't like Michael Jordan. They were fired very quickly. There were people who did not like Kobe Bryant in the LA media. It happens. Okay. It just so happens that this asshole is a very powerful person in the Toronto media. I don't know why he's powerful. Every single time I have someone from the, I will call it 905 suburbs, explain to me why he still works in the Toronto sports media. They say, well, Doug is an OG. He covered the Raptors when nobody wanted to. It's like, it's not charity, bro. There's plenty of sports writers out there who would love to cover the Raptors now. So I believe it's time for this dude to retire. Personally, I'm not really a fan of cancel culture, but if you can put pressure on the Toronto Star to call out this moron for what he's doing right now, because I've been reading his trash for over 2 years. Okay. Read the comments on that tweet. It is universally being called out for what it is. And the more it gets called out, the more pressure it puts on the Toronto Star to look into what the fuck this guy's doing. Okay. So I'm just putting it out there. Whatever little platform we have, it is nothing compared to what the Toronto Star is. And I'm just asking you guys, like, call this out. Because, like, I watched this same media, this, puckhead Toronto media drive out Vince Carter, probably the most talented player in Raptors history. And I tell you, till this day, he does not have a great relationship with this media and what they did, what they called out with his mom. And some of you may just feel like it was warranted at the time. Trust me, there was a push-pull escalation that happened with his injuries, and his injuries were legit. Okay. His injuries were legitimate. He went through a period of 2 to 3 years where he was very injury prone, and he learned to take care of his body better after that, but he wasn't injury prone after that. Okay. So this idea of, oh, he dogged it or whatever. Well, guess what? There's not another fan base in this entire league that would have that accusation towards him. Not one. Okay. I'm not overestimating him. I am, however, saying that a lot of people read the Toronto Star, and this, what he's doing, it carries weight. Okay? It carries weight. Yes, unfortunately they are. What do you mean something went wrong? It didn't work? Hang on. Let me try to figure this out for a sec. No, the link works just fine. Does anyone else have a problem with the link? Because I tried it right now. I'm just gonna post it again. Yeah. Um, I really like Baba Miller. Actually, followed his entire year. Florida State had a absolutely disastrous year, but he has some really intriguing potential just as a really big playmaker. He has some gifted playmaking chops. His outside shooting though is very shaky. But I like anyone who would choose to play at Florida State. Is not an easy program to play at, and they play very tough basketball. Where is Baba right now? Mocked? I'm not seeing him. Um, is there something about him not declaring for this draft? Because there's no way he's going undrafted. Hmm. I am not seeing him mocked in the 2023 draft. He was mocked somewhere around 20 earlier. Um, Very weird that Chris Murray is being compared to Dorian Finney-Smith. That's Keegan Murray's brother. Very interesting indeed. Um, James says, I used to chat with Doug Smith in 1979 when he worked in Montreal radio. Even then, he had really bad takes. Yeah, he may not. Perfect. Thank you so much for confirming that. Yeah. So anyway, my sort of takeaway from this, sorry for extending this further and further. I feel like I'm procrastinating on something, but yeah, it's just let your voice be heard, man. Very disappointing to see. I didn't know about initially about the threats towards DeMar's daughter. This report that his daughter had to be escorted by Chicago Bulls security due to threats being levied at her by Raptor fans who were frustrated with her screaming. Unimaginable. Unimaginable. Grown adults that frustrated by, a 9-year old is just insane to me. But yeah. Um, can Chris Boucher fetch a draft pick? Um, Highly unlikely, unless you're willing to take on a really bad salary attached to a really bad player. And the draft pick would have to be probably like a very late first rounder by a team that is cap conscious. Yeah, man. I gotta tell you, that's just not like I've been talking about this for years as an American who came here, that I do not believe that this city is nearly as tolerant or as multicultural um as the surface representation, you know? Um exactly. Yeah. Um I mentioned in the last live, like I was just so proud of her. Like I remember when she was born, DeMar was here. I remember and, actually in the live intro that I just had, like DR's in that live intro. Like the Kyle walking with his kid and DeMar walking with DR. I think it was like after they got bounced in the playoffs. Um No, it was not 10-year-olds making the threat. It was adults making those threats. I wish it was 10-year-olds making those threats. It would make me feel a lot better, but no, it was adults. And, I'm a moderator on a Facebook group that James is the admin and founder on. And, we spotted some horrible comments. Horrible comments. Um, comments like talking about how DeMar's a hood rat with cornrows and how, how would you expect, you don't expect better from a parent with, a hood rat parent with cornrows or some shit like that. There was somebody said someone should have spilled beer on her, and these people deserve to be exposed for sure. Like they really do. Um, you know what? Let's do that. Hang on. Let's expose these people too. Now that we're just completely like, I mean, these people decided to put this shit online, right? It's not. Hang on. I'm gonna find this. I will find this. Where is it? Give me 1 second, guys. No. What was the word that I used? Lunatics. Here we go. What the hell? James, do you have a link to it? Where the hell is this? Hang on, guys. I'm gonna find this. I am suddenly on a mission. Oh, here we go. Got it. Okay. So initially, I did not want to give these people any attention, but now I'm thinking they may actually have jobs. And if you're going to post this trash on the internet and it is going to result in a child being threatened, then your dumbass deserves to be called out. Here you go. Here are some of the comments, and I'm actually going to read them out. All right. Lynette Smart, welcome to the internet. You are famous. Okay, let me put it this way, really plain and simple, for those of you that don't seem to understand what manners are. When you go to a public event, no matter who your parents are, you should be respectful to those around you. You go to a concert or a basketball game or a wedding, a church, a class setting, you can already tell what your background is, lady. And some kid is just letting off screams whenever. It's a poor lack of parenting right there. Put a screaming child in front of scenarios like grocery store, wedding, park. I mean, this woman just loves fucking weddings, doesn't she? Airplane, concert. Did she say how many times is she going to say this? Church. Oh my God. Church again. Wow. Go find God, lady. And you'll see that it has a lot to do with entitled behavior and spoiledness. Is spoiledness a word? And lack of manners. Not everyone who is annoyed with this little heathen blames the Raptors. Does anyone know the dictionary definition of the word heathen? We call that problematic behavior. Nick Weir. Man, I hope you have a job. Someone should have dumped a beer on her. Take one for the team. And when I created a post basically saying like, stop this behavior, it's ridiculous. Troy Saunders, you shut the F up, asshole. You shut the F. You shut the F, asshole. The effing kid is an idiot who knew exactly what she was doing, and it worked. You sound like Chicago fans, so get the F out of this group, you effing tool. That's a grown man. That's a grown man. He's very angry. All right. Matt Jones, whom I had a very interesting conversation with, private message, blocked his ass. Watched sports for 25 years. I have never seen such unsportsmanlike conduct from anyone, let alone DeRozan's daughter. Apparently, Matt slept through the mouse in the palace. Okay, Paul wrote, they are just trash. No respect for him and a spoiled kid. Ryan Hoffman, man, I also hope you really have a job, and I hope that you, like, man. Okay, who knew a hood rat with cornrows would be such a horrible parent? I, for one, am shocked. And Shelby Schoffer said, disrespectful DeMar needs to hire one of his girlfriends to nanny the little one properly. One of his girlfriends, of course, implying that DeMar, a married human being, who is a loving father, must have mistresses. Honestly, man, the reason this pissed me off so much is because I know that DeMar is a really good dad. And I don't want to get into it. But if you read these comments, you know where they're coming from. You know this isn't about a little girl, okay? You know this isn't about a little girl yelling and not having manners. This is about who that little girl was and what she looked like, okay? The commentary is there. It is problematic, okay? And I'm sorry. It is what it is. Okay? So either we as a society are going to address this and call this out when we see it so that these pseudo-Trumpers do not feel emboldened to send threats of violence towards a 9-year-old girl for cheering for her dad. Ridiculous. To those of you who feel, well, you know, Rob, these people who attended the game, they did pay thousands of dollars. First of all, check the ticket prices. Shut the fuck up about thousands of dollars, okay? They weren't thousands of dollars. The tickets were relatively inexpensive to attend this game, okay? Just be real about it, okay? Yes, courtside seats were probably pretty expensive, but like, shut up, okay? Shut up. She screamed 30 times for a grand total of a minute, okay? A minute. Did that ruin your entire enjoyment of the game? I personally think that if that ruined your enjoyment of the game, you are probably crazy. Just my take on it, okay? If that was anything other than adorable, you should get your head checked, okay? What do I think about Fred's comments about maturity? I think it's called textbook projection. You know, maturity would be accepting your role and not being salty and moving off the ball, which is exactly what he promised to do coming into the season. Maturity would be accepting that your team has drafted point guard after point guard after point guard in 3 drafts. Malachi Flynn, Delano Banton, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Harris, being drafted point guard after point guard after point guard, right? Accepting that, taking them under your wings the way Kyle did, that would be maturity. Paying it forward would be maturity. I think Fred is immature, personally. Putting team success second, putting your own success first, greed. Honestly, man, look, I come from the hedge fund world, okay? That's like, it was my life for quite a few years. I touched shoulders with some extremely scary people in terms of like how they perceive money, greed, wealth. Y'all watch The Wolf of Wall Street. Man, that guy's nothing. Okay? Like there are people who literally like they would sell a human being. Okay? So I have seen greed unchecked. There's nothing cool about it. There's nothing, you know, admirable about it. It's great to chase paper. It's great to take care of your family. I get it. Get paid. but not at the expense of your humanity, man. Someone like Carl Icahn, you admire that guy? Really? Why? Andrew Tate, you admire that guy? Why? I don't get people like that, man. No, actually, no. I don't want to blanket that. It's not that I don't get them. I do get them. I don't like them. Calling her a banshee? Why are you calling her a banshee? She's a 9-year-old girl. Were you beaten as a child? What's wrong with you? If that was your daughter and, you had any discernible talent, which I very much doubt you do, but if you had any discernible talent, I mean, you realize she grew up here, right? You realize that? She was cheering for her dad to win, man. I think it is absolutely adorable. I think Malachi Richardson is overseas. He is... Yeah, he's in the Polish Basketball League. Surprising, man. He was picked 22nd. That's crazy. That's crazy. Definitely Google it sometime. So what? I mean, people are supposed to scream at sporting events. It's your problem that you don't like her screaming. It's a sporting event. She didn't throw anything on the floor. She didn't run onto the floor. She didn't spill a drink. Okay? She wasn't screaming racist slurs at the players, which, is something they do in Utah all the fucking time. She wasn't, do you have a problem with fans who try to distract the road team by taking off their shirt? Do you have a problem with fans who jump up and down? Do you think that there are people behind them that can't see because they're jumping up and down, but they're trying to get the team to miss a free throw, right? So we're cool with that because it's the home team that's benefiting. And in this case, the home team did not benefit. But I'm sure if the same girl let out that same shriek and it was every time the Bulls went to the line, you'd be thrilled about it, right? Then everyone would be applauding her. Well, she was supporting who she was there to see. It's her fucking right. You understand? And honestly, if you have such an issue with it, you could have easily, and I do mean easily, if you're fans, like the dumbasses who were there, okay, here's a hint. The next time someone is doing that and you notice that your team keeps missing free throws, why don't you chant MVP or chant Let's Go Raptors? You would drown her out, right? Do you think Let's Go Raptors? You think that would have been like, have you seen EuroLeague games, man? They're literally flares. People screaming all sorts of shit. People trying to run onto the court. People fighting. My God, how mentally fragile are you? Here's a hint. If you're a basketball player out there who's even reasonable at shooting free throws, play the clip. Play the clip of her screaming and see if you can hit free throws. Man, get out of here. Hey Rob, I had a conversation with said if it was doing a deal for $1 million and missing his mom's funeral, he would miss the funeral. Yeah, man, people are people. Look, I personally, I tried to chase money through most of my teens because I didn't have money growing up, but I found that life somewhat boring very quickly. and also grew to be quite, I grew to have quite a bit of disdain for people who just thought about money like that, personally. Um, Facts. Exactly. Anyways, guys, have a great night. And thanks for staying up with us until 2:11 in the morning. And, you know, if you'd like to share this video on Twitter, get it out there. I'm probably going to clip the last, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes of this. I don't know. It depends on how I feel about it. But the meat of this, hopefully, was in the first 20 minutes. Then if anyone else wants to listen to my thoughts on Canadian race relations, certainly they'll be free to listen to the last 25 minutes of this. All right. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.